Hey Amy, it's our big back to school hotline TV show. Are you excited?
What? I would never let my kids get indoctrinated with this socialist stuff.
Oh.
No way. Welcome to Hotline TV, everyone. I'm Amy Walter.
And I'm John Mercurio. Okay, the Labor Day weekend is over and it's back to business in Washington, D.C. Today we're covering the big fall storylines in the House and the Senate.
Yes, indeed. There are two bodies.
There are two
Apparently.
chambers.
Two chambers. Very important. All right, the first is the House, the lower chamber,
Yes.
as it were. And joining us from our House Race Hotline studios, our favorite House editor, Tim Saad.
Yes.
Hello, Tim Saad.
Hello guys, I'm joining you from a distant studio.
Well, we appreciate you being here. We can barely hear you, but that's okay. We're good.
All right, Tim, let's talk about a couple of things. Democrats coming into September after a rough August, and it's not just about town hall meetings. We saw the other day in the Pew poll that the congressional ballot test now tied. At this point in 2007, Dems had a 12-point lead. Tim Saad, are Republicans taking advantage of this new change momentum? Let's talk about recruiting. Let's talk about fundraising. Give us some races to watch.
Definitely, I think they're definitely taking advantage. I think in Pennsylvania, in Pennsylvania's 3rd district, against Kathy Dahlkemper, who's a freshman this time, Republicans had a hard time recruiting a candidate. I thought they were going to have a little difficulty this time. They've recruited a pretty good candidate up there, who's the equivalent of the Erie County DA. He's a former DA up there, so he's a very good candidate. That happened late last week. We're still seeing some problems, though, in some other races. I think you'll begin to see candidates in those races this September, and I think that's something to watch for. Against Chris Carney in Pennsylvania, a very Republican district. Same against Zach Space. Against Bart Gordon, a candidate who really hasn't had a challenger in a long time. Republicans look like they may find a very credible candidate there as well, and if that is the case, that would move to a sort of a very tenuous situation for Bart Gordon as he's on the fence with health care and all this other things. So he's getting a lot of stuff at home. So I think Republicans in these Republican-leaning districts for Democrats are getting very credible challengers and using this environment to very much to their benefit.
Are there any races that are shaping up at this point that you're watching that that could become the sleeper races of 2010? Any of the candidates getting in, other than the ones that you just mentioned? Bart Gordon obviously might be an example of this, but other races people aren't watching that they should be?
Races that people aren't watching, I think it disappeared off our radars, and I think because of some candidate problems. Carol Shea Porter in New Hampshire's 1st district, she's always one that comes out as definitely a top-tier race, but that slid below because Frank Ginta, who's the mayor of Manchester, was involved in some sort of brawl. He witnessed it, and
It was a bar fight, wasn't it?
I prefer brawl.
Oh,
but,
you do? It's a
bar
bar
brawl.
fight, a bar
It
fight.
was a brawl. He got involved in it. His name got thrown around on all kinds of unsavory things. He wasn't in trouble. He wasn't convicted of anything, certainly. But that enabled him to disappear below the radar. He seems to be coming on now, and that looks to be a top-tier race. Yes?
Just people are making predictions. Everyone's out there. You got Larry Sabato, you got Charlie Cook, all these great minds of American politics trying to tell us how many seats the Democrats are going to either pick up or lose. What is Tim Saad saying? How many seats will Democrats
Oh, thanks. You know, we got 14 months left, and while things might look good for...
Doesn't matter.
Well, things look good for Republicans right now. Things can certainly change. 8 months ago, we thought Obama was the best thing since. People thought Obama was the best thing since sliced bread. Democrats were never going to lose control of the House. Now people are saying Democrats are going to lose control of the House. 8 months from now, that can be a completely different story.
So what's your number?
But I think, if there's any number, I think somewhere around 20 seats, 24 seats, somewhere around there. I think it's pretty hard right now to get to 50 or 40 that Republicans need to win control, but events can certainly happen. Retirements could come up for Democrats. There aren't any right now in any vulnerable districts. Republicans could get really good recruits against people like Rick Boucher in Tennessee and Virginia. Recruiting could come up against a lot of freshman Democrats who really haven't seem to be vulnerable. If that happens, that number certainly swells up. But up until we see those, it's hard right now to see a majority But it's significant losses for Democrats right now.
All right. Well, Tim Sod, we are going to make sure that we check in between now and 14 months from now, because we do assume that the battle will still be going on.
So true. It is so true. Thank you so much, Tim Sod, for joining us here on Hotline TV. Okay, joining us now to talk Senate storylines is Hotline's very own managing editor, Quinn McCord. Quinn joining us from Hotline's very own Senate Press Bureau.
Yes, we have a big, very expansive presence on Capitol Hill. All right, Quinn McCord, September, a big month in the Senate, especially in some of these races that are very fluid. In particular, let's talk about Colorado and Delaware, Massachusetts, this upcoming special election. What do you see going on there? What are the make or break issues for these races?
Well, Amy, clearly the biggest shoe left to drop in the Senate races is Mike Castle in Delaware. Will the congressman run? Will he not? That is the difference between whether it will be a competitive seat or pretty much a Dem.
And what's your guess?
If you press me, I'll say he doesn't, but it could go either way. 50-50.
Press him.
Press him.
You did
Don't press me.
him.
Don't press me. Colorado, of course. Jane
Wait, so
Norton.
wait, I'm sorry. When pressed, you say 50-50?
Well, I'm not here to be mocked, okay? I have stuff to say. I'm going to say it. You can be quiet right now. All right. In Colorado,
He said he didn't.
Okay.
listen, if pressed, I'll say he's not going to run.
Okay, thank you.
But it's 51-49.
Of course it is.
All right. Colorado, we're never going to get to the state at this rate. Jane Norton looks to be running for the Republican nomination, and Andrew Romanoff for the Democratic side. But will they run? Will they not run? Who knows? Now, of course, the special elections in Massachusetts and Texas. Massachusetts, will it be Martha Coakley and 1 or 2 or 3 dudes? Obviously, she's going to have a big advantage if it's Martha Coakley and like 20 dudes running against her.
Dude, what's with the
that-
dudes? Are you
that's a
going to
good-
dude all these dudes for the whole race?
Yes, the Congress dudes.
Okay.
Marty Meehan, Mike Capuano, Steve Blanchard, that kind of thing. Texas. Will Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison resign to run for governor? When will she resign? The exact timing will affect the date of if and when there'll be a special election. We might know by the end of September, so that's something we're looking at. And of course, also, we can never forget that the end of September is the end of the third quarter.
Yes.
where all these
Yeah,
new
fundraising.
fundraising numbers are going to come through.
Talk to us a little bit about that, because this is the expensive Senate cycle, right? We've got Florida, we've got Illinois, we've got Ohio, we've got Pennsylvania, big Missouri, big races, even California,
And crowded
potentially,
races.
and crowded races in all of these states. Talk to us a little bit about how you think fundraising goes in each of these.
Well, you have several of these states where there are quasi primaries. I mean, they're not like full-blooded, vigorous primaries, but you have kind of borderline nuisance primary candidates, but not quite. For instance, Marco Rubio in Florida. Is he a real challenger to Charlie Crist? I mean, it's arguable, it's debatable. I think the end of the third quarter will show, has he been able to sort of parlay any of his conservative credentials into actual fundraising success to be able to do anything against Charlie Crist, or will he just will this be the beginning of the end where he fades away? Ohio, Jennifer Brunner has had a couple lousy quarters.
Right.
Will she be able to stay in the race against Lee Fisher for the Democratic nomination?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania too. I mean, but there you actually have 3 really strong fundraisers. I mean, Arlen Specter, Joe Sestak, and Pat Toomey all have had really good quarters in the past, and I expect they'll all have great quarters again. But who will come out on top?
Illinois is a big one for me. What does Alexei need to put on the board to show that he is absolutely the front runner here?
I would say this. I mean, past quarters, it was more. I think the threshold was like $1 million per quarter to show some credibility. At this point, when you've arguably sort of cleared the field, not quite, I think $1.5 million is about where a strong quarter for someone like Alexei Giannoulis or even Mark Kirk would have
Kirk
to be.
needs to have some strong numbers.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's about it. I mean, Kentucky,
Don't forget
Dan Mangiardo needs to play catch up to Jack Conway. That's something else we'll be looking at. But those are the big Senate races.
Will Rand Paul continue to be able to raise money off his dad and put Grayson into a little bit of a bind?
Yeah, I mean,
And how much help will Grayson be getting from the establishment?
Yeah, is it possible that Rand Paul could outrace Trey Grayson? I don't know.
Interesting.
I hope not.
So many important questions. Such an interesting conversation. Quinn McCord, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, John McCuro, time for our favorite segment known as Last Words. Pretty original there. All right. You have to answer this question.
Yeah.
What is more likely to happen in 2010? Harry Reid loses his re-election bid, or Democrats are under 60 seats in the United States Senate?
I think landslide Harry pulls it out in the end and comes back to a slightly smaller majority, a 4 or 5 seat loss. So my answer would be that it is more likely that Democrats are under 60. You?
That was a tough one, but I'm going to say it is hard to bet against Harry Reid. But you know what? I'm just going to do it.
Okay.
Why not?
Wow.
Why not?
We're going to be getting calls from Jim Manley.
I think it is hard to see Democrats get under 60 if Harry Reid wins, because I think that is an important seat for Republicans to be able to knock off. That said, I don't underestimate his money or his campaign prowess. I just think he has some really lousy numbers for a guy who should be in better standing.
Interesting. All right.
All right.
Good times. Good last words here on Hotline TV. Thank you so much for joining us in our new format. We hope you're enjoying that as well. Let us know, and we will see you next time on Hotline TV.